So, hi guys. In this next step, we'll be going over structured outputs from our LLM, basically JSON parsing. And this will be I think the third or the fourth video in our series. I'll try to keep this really short, but it's really quite interesting. So, at this point is where we are actually now pushing and making amazing things out of our LLM. We're no longer just giving it basic questions and answers. Now we're adding it directly into our code. How I like to picture it as taking intelligence and literally embedding it into our systems. So what this basically this and by doing this, we're doing this through getting the LLM and getting it to answer questions in structured output. And this structured output can either be saved into a database, passed into another function. Anything can be done with this as long as it's a structured output, as long as the outputs of this LLM are in a structured format, any other step can happen. So this is literally now where the the the, the magic starts to happen, and I'm quite excited. Yeah, so let's get right into it. So this is quite short, quite straightforward, and I'll show you how we do it. So let's get right into it. We have some couple of imports we'll be doing. One of the imports is basically the output parser, pedantic output parser. That comes from PyTorch, and then we also have a prompt template. That one we have worked with before, so we're quite familiar with that. We also have a base model and a field model. This is also from Pydantic, but this is also really easy and quite. I'll explain to you where it comes in handy. Then we have the PyTorch, not PyTorch, OpenAI chat uh, imports. Really familiar with that at this point. And then you have a typing list. So I'll explain to you what this is. So let's execute that. Shift Enter to execute. And then yes, first things always create the model so that you know the model you're working with. You're just working with chat OpenAI, and the key is already set up in the environment. Everything is good. So let's continue. Now, now we are still building upon our early use case. We're still building upon our earliest use case of building an traveling agent bot, and we'll continue on with this use case till the end of this YouTube series. Hopefully, it's a good enough use case to show the capabilities of AI in code. So in this section, we want the AI to respond in such a manner that the outputs can either be saved into a database or passed into another function. So basically, we want the outputs to come into a structured format. And a structured format by this point, we mean a JSON format. And for those who might not quite understand what I mean by JSON, basically, I mean it should come with key value pairs. When I say by key value pairs, I mean here there's a key, then here there is a value, and they need to come in that pair, in those pairs, as they represented. So this is the JSON format, and we will be passing this. We will be passing this into the next. The LLM will be returning this and passing this into the next output. So how do we get the LLM to say this or to return outputs like this? First thing we have to do, we have to create a class of how the outputs we want to look like to come back. And for our case, we're taking the use case, we want the LLM to return to us a location and a fun activity that happens on that location. So first we create a class called activity. And that class imports from the base model class. So Pydantic base model, we import that. And then we'll be using Python um, Python typing. What's the word? I'm actually missing the word. But Python case typing, so that we actually say exactly what every variable is. So by default, not many people need to do this. You don't definitely need to do case typing. So case typing is, well, it's not case typing. The actual word is actually missing, but then I'll just put it somewhere. But it's a case format where you actually say the types of every field and every value that you are working with in Python. And usually Python is dynamically typed, so its variables change in runtime, but this is just predefined in the future. And usually, so how we do this, we say the location and then we do a colon, and then we add the string. So by doing this, you're actually doing uh, case typing. So if I can say y is equals to 5, so This is by default. By default, people will do this, but by case stepping, we kind of say y colon int equals to 5. So basically, what this means is y is an integer. Y will only accept integer, and the integer it will take is 5. If I can still put in here a string and say s, and to still execute, but really it's this. That's why I'm saying it's not really necessary in Python because it will automatically change the type at runtime. But in case you do not need it, or in case you do not, um, in case we are working with this models, a model that will need to pass to OpenAI, we kind of need to specify ahead of time. So it'll just help the OpenAI models to, or the AI intelligence models to know what we're working with. So first is a location of type string, and then we create the variable will pass in a field attribute. The field attribute has takes in the title of that um, variable, which now is location, and then the description, basically that says now the description is how should the LLM know this field? What should it put in this field? And what is the description of the thing that you put in this field? The description here is a fun location for activity. And then the activity is a list of strings. So list, this is where this list comes in. It's a list of strings, and the field, the title is the activity, and the description is a list. Sorry about that. The description is the description is a list of fun activities that one can do in the location. So ChatGPT will kind of know, okay, this is what I do here. This is the location. This is the list of activities that go in that location. And then the list of activities, by this I mean, so this is another class still deriving from the base model. And this list has the title activities. Let's call them activities with an S. Activities. And this activities takes in a list from the class activity. So it will be a list of activities, these activities, all of them in one list. So we'll have like nested JSONs, or nested, a class within a class, kind of think of it like that. So the field of this is activity. Let's write here activities. Sorry. Let's just type that into activities. And then the list of locations and activities that one can take into in that location. So remember that is exactly what we are passing in, because this class is just a container class for this other classes. Basically, this class just creates the list of this other class. So and then we pass the main class that we're working with into a parser. So what is a parser? A parser is basically the object that will get the information from OpenAI, convert it into code that we expect it, and then give it back to us. So we pass it through the pydantic object output parser. And how we get that function takes in an object, and that object should be the main class, the main final class. And then we pass that in and execute that. That should give us a parser. So now the parser, if you run the function parser.get format instruction. So this format instruction is what we'll be giving the LLM. And if you want, you can go over it and figure out what it says. But basically, it instructs the LLM on how to basically output itself in such a way that the output will be understandable by our class, which is also a nested class of two classes. So now after that, we create the prompt from the prompt template. So remember our use case. The use case is we're creating a useful AI agent, a traveling agent bot, and the role is to answer any travel related questions the user might ask. So that's exactly what we want. And then the question of the user. So what we already remember, this is a prompt template. We've seen this before. So what we add to the prompt template that is extra that we aren't adding before is this format instruction. And the format instruction is a partial variable, as we see here. It's one of those variables that we used to see when you look into the messages, the prompt formats, and sometimes we saw them as blank. So the partial variable is a variable that can either be accepted or doesn't need to be accepted. It's okay. So we put here instructions, instruction format, and this instruction format, what do we pass in? We pass in the parser.get instruction, or we say this is tied to the parser.get instruction. So it will be appended. All this text will be appended here when the function is being executed. And then the user's input will be appended here. So it'll read, you are a useful agent. Here's the user's text, and here's how you should respond to this. And that is in another way, still remember coming are coming from the lesson of prompt templating and prompt engineering. So those are the input variables. Our input variables are the user prompts, user input. So let's execute this, and this is how it will look like. You can go over it and just see how it will look like eventually the whole sentence. Quite really interesting. And then now we run this. It's quite a simple run, really. How we run it is now we create a LangChain. We're using LangChain type formatting. We're not using standard Python. So we just create, we're separating things with this line. It's not a forward leaning, not a forward slash, it's not a backslash, it's just a straight. I think it's a straight slash. I'm not sure if that's the word, but let's go with that. There's the if you know the word, please type in the comments, and then we'll kind of figure out what that is. Uh, the prompt, you put the prompt. So this formatting goes like this: you put the prompt on the left. So basically, this is the question you ask and how the LLM should respond on the left, the model itself, the LLM, and then on the right you put how you want it to respond. So that's how it goes: the input, what it actually is going to, what is actually responding, and the output on the far left, and that creates the chain. So a chain is just the whole flow of occurrence. So the input, model, output, and the chain, you invoke the chain the same way we have been invoking the chains before. So you just pass in the user input, and then the user this time is, what can I do in Tanzania? So this sentence, this question, just before I execute it, this question, what can I do in Tanzania, will be appended in this placeholder. So it will be, this is the user's question, what can I do in Tanzania? And then this formatting instruction will be this one that is up here. And then all of that will be passed to ChatGPT, and then ChatGPT will make a good response and then print that out. Let's see what come out from that. So it's cooking, and it says that it errored out. I think this is the first of an error. Let's see what it says. Probably have not invoked something. Output passing failure, list activity from that. Okay, let me just rerun all of these cells, thinking these place that might have crashed or gone amiss. Let's see. Okay, it executed well. I think I didn't run this. I might have changed the spellings or something and didn't rerun it accordingly. So yeah. So let's see what the response is. Response, let's print out the response and see. So the response is a class response. And if you want that response in, so if it is a class, you get the attributes of a class by calling the attribute name. And in our class called list activities, we had the first attribute we had was activities. So let's call the response dot activities. Sorry about that. Dot activities, and this should give us now the actual um, contents of that activity. And then if you want to get even more deeper, then you understand that the activity is also another class, another nested class. And if you want to do that, you can also just do colon 0, because that will give you now the other class inside it. And then now that one will give you exactly the activity, the first activity. But to get off all of that, if you want everything to be in a dictionary, you can just usually pass it into a dict, and then output that, and then everything will be a dictionary, a beautiful nested dictionary. And then so in this dictionary, let's call this dictionary uh, best dict. This amazing, beautifully looking dictionary. Now, from this amazing, beautiful looking dictionary, we can access the attributes that are called activities. And then the activities will give us a list of items, and then we can go into the list and just extract out item 1. And then say, what is the item 1? So it says, what are the list of things I can do in Tanzania? First thing, the location is Serengeti National Park. The activity you can do there is surfing, no, safari, game drives, hot air balloon and hot air balloon safaris, and cultural activities to the local tribes, cultural visits to the local tribes. These are really cool things. If anyone is looking for something to do there, please go ahead. But this is actually a really interesting system because it's actually giving us interesting information that we would want to do. use, and I'm pretty sure people have want some kind of system such as this, or something like this. So feel free to take up the idea and run with it and build out something. If you can find an agency, actually build out something for them that does work. And yes, so as you can see, we can get the outputs of this. So this can either be saved into a database, or they can either be saved into a database or passed directly to the user's front-end application so that they can use it themselves, which is actually really cool as well. So this output is structured and it's generated by the LLM, not by us, not by any other human, not retrieved from a database. And then once it's generated, you can pass it directly. So you can already see the capabilities of where this is going. Now that you know how to do prompt engineering, you already know how to get the LLM to talk in a specific niche only, which in our case is um, agents only, traveling agents only, and get a structured output. We kind of see we can now pass this output, either save it to a database or pass it to the front end users in case they're using a mobile app, or pass it into a web application or something like that. Yes, now we're getting somewhere. So a challenge I would give you for, I'm going to give you guys for this particular session is, I'd like you guys just to add here a description, add a description description field for the location, such that when you do return anything, it will tell you that when outputs are being returned, it will kind of tell you the description of that location. So this case, it said Serengeti National Park, or not Serengeti, rather. Let me just double check that. Yes, Serengeti National Park. It should have a description of what the Serengeti National Park is, and just to give a small description and a small teaser about it, and then go into the activities that can happen there. So that's something you can add in your code for practice as you keep building, as you keep ongoing this YouTube series. And that's the end of it. So the last step, which is actually one of the craziest things I personally do with LLMs, is to do function calling. And when you mean function calling, this means giving LLM tools and capabilities to call actual functions and execute on those functions. And once they do execute on them, give the users the response or actually just use those responses. So it's just a really cool, amazing tool. And it heavily builds around everything that we have been working towards. So I'll see you guys in that video. Thank you for getting this far.